There's a book in the Bible that has been shaping lives for thousands of years. It's not filled with grand narratives or epic battles. It's not a collection of prophecies or mystical visions. Instead, it's something far more practical, far more immediate. It's a book of wisdom, the Book of Proverbs. And within its pages lie truths so timeless, so profoundly relevant, that they speak directly to the challenges we face today. Whether we're navigating relationships, making decisions, managing our finances, or simply trying to live with integrity in a world that often rewards the opposite. Proverbs doesn't just tell us what to believe, it tells us how to live, and that's what makes it so powerful. It's practical wisdom for everyday life. It's guidance for the moments that matter. It's truth that transforms not just what you think, but how you actually live your life day by day, decision by decision, relationship by relationship. Think about your life right now. Think about the challenges you're facing. Maybe you're struggling with a difficult relationship. Maybe you're wrestling with a major decision. Maybe you're trying to figure out how to manage your money, or how to raise your children, or how to navigate conflict at work. Maybe you're just feeling lost, uncertain, overwhelmed by the complexity of modern life. Here's the beautiful thing about Proverbs. It speaks to all of it. Every single challenge you're facing, every question you're asking, every struggle you're experiencing. There's wisdom in Proverbs that addresses it, not in abstract, theoretical ways, but in concrete, practical, applicable ways. This is wisdom you can use today, right now. In the very next conversation you have, in the very next decision you make, in the very next moment you face. Today, we're going to explore 21 lessons from Proverbs that have the potential to completely transform the way you live. These aren't just interesting ideas to think about. These aren't just nice spiritual concepts to nod along with. These are practical, life-changing truths that you can apply right now, today, in your everyday life. These are principles that have been tested over thousands of years, across countless cultures, in millions of lives, and they work. They work because they're not human wisdom, they're divine wisdom. They're not based on trends or opinions or cultural preferences. They're based on the unchanging character of God and the unchanging nature of human beings. So if you're ready to discover wisdom that endures, wisdom that works, wisdom that changes everything, then let's dive in. Before we continue, I want to take just a moment to connect with you. I'm so grateful that you're here, watching this video, no matter where you are in the world. Whether you're watching from the United States, the United Kingdom, Nigeria, Brazil, the Philippines, India, Australia, Canada, South Africa, or anywhere else on this planet, this is a global community, and you are a vital part of it. I'd love to hear from you. Take a second right now and drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. It's always incredible to see how God is bringing people together from every corner of the earth through these videos. Every time I read the comments and see all the different countries represented, it reminds me that God's truth transcends borders, transcends cultures, transcends languages. We're all part of one family, and that's beautiful. And if you haven't already, I want to personally invite you to subscribe to this channel. It would mean the world to me. I'm not just asking for numbers or statistics. I'm genuinely inviting you to be part of something meaningful. By subscribing, you're not just supporting the channel, you're joining a community of people who are hungry for truth, who want to grow, who want to live differently in a world that desperately needs the light of God's Word. You're connecting with brothers and sisters from around the world who are on the same journey you are, who are asking the same questions, who are seeking the same wisdom. And if you really want to take it a step further, consider becoming a channel member. As a member, you'll get early access to videos before anyone else sees them, and you'll be part of an even closer community of believers walking this journey together. You'll get to see content first, engage in deeper discussions, and really be a foundational part of what we're building here. So please hit that subscribe button and let's keep learning and growing together. Now, let's get into these powerful lessons from Proverbs. Lesson 1. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Proverbs chapter 1 verse 7 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." And this is the foundation of everything. It's the starting point. You can't understand Proverbs, you can't truly understand life, without grasping this one essential truth. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. This isn't just the first lesson among equals. This is the foundation upon which all the other lessons are built. Without this, everything else crumbles. Without this, all the other wisdom in Proverbs is just nice advice, good suggestions, helpful tips. But with this foundation, everything else becomes transformative truth. But what does that mean? Does it mean we're supposed to be terrified of God? Does it mean we live in constant dread, always looking over our shoulder, waiting for judgment to fall? Does it mean we approach God with trembling and anxiety, never quite sure if we're good enough, always worried that we're going to mess up and face His wrath? No, not at all. That's not what the fear of the Lord means. The fear of the Lord is not about terror. It's about reverence. It's about recognizing who God is and who we are in relation to Him. It's about understanding that God is holy, perfect, all-knowing, all-powerful, and we are not. It's about humility. It's about knowing that we don't have all the answers, that we don't control everything, that we need something, or rather someone, greater than ourselves. The fear of the Lord means we take God seriously. We don't treat Him casually. We don't approach Him flippantly. We don't reduce Him to a cosmic vending machine where we insert our prayers and expect to get what we want. We don't treat Him like a buddy, a pal, someone we can manipulate or use for our own purposes. We understand that He is God, He is the Creator, He is the Sustainer, He is the Judge, He is holy beyond our comprehension. And we are His creatures, entirely dependent on Him for every breath, every heartbeat, every moment of existence. When we begin there, when we start with a proper understanding of who God is, everything else falls into place. Wisdom flows from that place of reverence. Knowledge grows from that foundation of humility. Our perspective shifts. Our priorities change. We stop living as if we're the center of the universe and start living in recognition of the one who actually is the center. We stop trusting in our own understanding and start trusting in His. We stop leaning on our own strength and start depending on His. But without it, without the fear of the Lord, we're just stumbling in the dark, trusting our own understanding. And Proverbs warns us repeatedly about where that leads. It leads to foolishness. It leads to destruction. It leads to wasted lives and broken relationships and regret. Because when we think we know better than God, when we think we can chart our own course without Him, when we think we're wise enough on our own, that's when we prove ourselves to be fools. Look at our world today. Look at all the so-called wisdom out there. Look at all the self-help books, all the motivational speeches, all the life coaches and influencers and gurus promising to give you the keys to success, happiness, fulfillment. And yet, for all of our accumulated knowledge, for all of our technological advancement, for all of our education and information, people are more anxious than ever, more depressed than ever, more confused than ever, more lost than ever. Why? Because we've tried to build wisdom without the foundation. We've tried to construct knowledge without the fear of the Lord. And it doesn't work. It can't work. Because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So if you want wisdom, if you want to live a life that's anchored and secure, if you want to make decisions that you won't regret, if you want relationships that flourish, if you want purpose and meaning and fulfillment, it begins here. It begins with the fear of the Lord. It begins with recognizing who God is and humbling yourself before Him. It begins with acknowledging that His ways are higher than your ways, His thoughts higher than your thoughts. It begins with surrendering your need to be in control and submitting to His authority. That's where wisdom starts. That's where everything changes. Lesson 2. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. You've probably heard these verses before. Maybe you've memorized them. Maybe you have them on a coffee mug or a wall decoration. Maybe you've quoted them in difficult times. But have you really lived them? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. This is one of the most beloved passages in all of Scripture, and for good reason. It's a promise and a command wrapped into one. It's both an invitation and a challenge, and it addresses one of the deepest struggles of human existence, the struggle to trust. Trust in the Lord, not partially, not when it's convenient, not when everything makes sense, not when you can see the whole picture, not when the path is clear and the outcome is certain. With all your heart, that means complete trust, total reliance, absolute dependence. It means laying down your need to control, your need to figure everything out, your need to have all the answers before you take a step. It means releasing your grip on your own plans and surrendering to His. And notice what it says next. Lean not on your own understanding. This is the part we struggle with, isn't it? This is where the rubber meets the road, because we want to understand. We desperately want to understand. We want everything to make sense. We want to see the whole picture before we move forward. We want to know how it's all going to work out before we take the first step. We want guarantees. We want certainty. We want control. But God is saying, you don't need to see the whole picture. You just need to trust me. Think about that phrase. Lean not on your own understanding. To lean on something means to depend on it, to rest your weight on it, to rely on it for support. And God is telling us, don't lean on your own understanding. Why? Because your understanding is limited. Your perspective is narrow. Your knowledge is incomplete. You can't see what's around the corner. You can't see what's down the road. You can't see all the factors at play. You can't see the future. You can't even fully understand the present. Your understanding, no matter how intelligent you are, no matter how educated you are, no matter how experienced you are, it's limited. And if you lean on it, if you depend on it completely, it will eventually fail you. It will let you down. It will lead you astray. But God's understanding, it's unlimited. His perspective is complete. His knowledge is perfect. He sees everything. The past, the present, the future. He sees all the factors at play. He sees the consequences of every decision. He sees the ripple effects of every action. He sees what you can't see. He knows what you don't know. And He's inviting you to trust Him instead of trusting your own limited understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, not just in the big decisions, not just in the spiritual moments, not just in the crisis situations, but in all your ways. Every choice, every relationship, every plan, every step, every moment. Submit it to God. What does that mean? It means you bring everything you do before God. You pray over it. You ask for His guidance. You seek His wisdom. You surrender it to His will. You say, God, this is what I'm planning to do. This is what I'm thinking about. This is the direction I'm considering. But I'm holding it loosely. I'm not married to it. If this isn't your will, redirect me. If this isn't your plan, close the door. If this isn't the best path, show me a better way. I'm committing this to you. I'm submitting this to you. Have your way. And here's the promise. He will make your paths straight. That doesn't mean your life will be easy. It doesn't mean you won't face challenges or hardships or difficulties. It doesn't mean everything will go smoothly or that you'll never experience pain or disappointment. But it does mean that when you trust God, when you lean not on your own understanding, when you submit your ways to Him, He will guide you. He will direct you. He will lead you exactly where you need to go. He will make your path straight, in the sense that He'll remove the obstacles that don't need to be there. He'll provide clarity where there was confusion. He'll give direction where there was uncertainty. And you'll look back one day and see that even when the path didn't make sense, even when you couldn't see what was ahead, even when it felt like you were walking in the dark, God was working. He was guiding. He was making your path straight. You couldn't see it at the time, but looking back, you'll see His hand in everything. You'll see how He was leading you, protecting you, preparing you, positioning you. You'll see how what looked like a detour was actually a divine appointment. You'll see how what looked like a setback was actually a setup. You'll see how what looked like a closed door was actually God's protection from something that would have harmed you. So the question is, are you trusting in the Lord with all your heart? Or are you still trying to figure everything out on your own? Are you leaning on your own understanding? Are you gripping tightly to your own plans? Are you insisting on your own way? If so, it's time to let go. It's time to trust. It's time to submit. It's time to believe that God's way is better than your way, even when you can't see it, even when you don't understand it. Lesson 3. Guard your heart above all else. Proverbs chapter 4 verse 23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Above all else. Let that sink in for a moment. Above all else. That's how important this is. Of all the things you could prioritize, of all the things you could focus on, of all the things you could protect, above all else, guard your heart. Why? Because everything you do flows from it. Your heart is the source. It's the wellspring of your life. It's the command center. It's the control room. Everything else, your thoughts, your words, your actions, your attitudes, your relationships, your decisions, they all flow from your heart. If your heart is healthy, everything that flows from it will be healthy. If your heart is pure, everything that flows from it will be pure. If your heart is filled with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, that's what will flow out into your life. But if your heart isn't guarded, if it's polluted, if it's compromised, if it's filled with bitterness, anger, lust, greed, pride, envy, fear, anxiety, then that's what flows from it. And everything in your life will be tainted by it. Think about it. What are you allowing into your heart? What are you consuming? What are you meditating on? What are you exposing yourself to day after day, hour after hour? The music you listen to, the shows you watch, the movies you consume, the content you scroll through on social media, the conversations you engage in, the thoughts you entertain, the attitudes you adopt. All of it is shaping your heart, and your heart is shaping your life. This isn't some abstract spiritual concept. This is intensely practical. What you put into your heart will come out in your life. It's inevitable. It's unavoidable. It's the law of sowing and reaping applied to the inner life. If you're constantly filling your heart with negativity, if you're consuming content that's dark, violent, sexual, cynical, pessimistic, that's going to shape your heart. And what flows from your heart into your life is going to reflect that. If you're constantly filling your heart with comparison, if you're scrolling through social media, looking at everyone else's highlight reels and feeling like your life doesn't measure up, that's going to breed envy, discontent, insecurity in your heart. And that's going to flow out into your relationships, your decisions, your sense of self. If you're constantly filling your heart with fear, if you're consuming news that's designed to make you anxious, if you're listening to voices that are constantly predicting doom and gloom, that's going to create anxiety in your heart. And that anxiety is going to flow out into how you live, how you parent, how you relate to others. If you're constantly filling your heart with bitterness, if you're rehearsing past hurts, replaying old offenses, nurturing resentment, that bitterness is going to poison your heart, and it's going to poison your relationships, your joy, your peace. But if you're guarding your heart, if you're intentional about what you allow in, if you're filling it with truth, with beauty, with goodness, with the Word of God, with worship, with encouragement, with things that are noble and right and pure and lovely and admirable, then that's what will flow out. That's what will shape your life. That's what will influence your decisions, your relationships, your character. Guarding your heart isn't about being paranoid or isolated. It's not about withdrawing from the world or living in a bubble. It's about being intentional. It's about being wise. It's about recognizing that you are responsible for what you allow into the most important part of who you are. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control what you dwell on, what you meditate on, what you allow to take root in your heart. So how do you guard your heart? First, you become aware of what's influencing it. You pay attention to what you're consuming. You notice how certain content makes you feel, how certain relationships affect you, how certain thoughts impact you, and then you make adjustments. You set boundaries. You turn off the show that's filling your mind with darkness. You put down the social media app that's making you discontent. You stop entertaining the thought patterns that are leading you into anxiety or bitterness or lust, and then you replace. You don't just remove the negative, you fill the space with the positive. You fill your heart with scripture, you fill it with worship, you fill it with truth. You meditate on what is good and right and true. You consume content that builds you up instead of tearing you down. You engage in relationships that encourage you instead of dragging you down. You think about things that produce life instead of death. Guard your heart, protect it. Be vigilant, be intentional, be wise, because everything you do flows from it. Your life will be a direct reflection of the state of your heart, so above all else, guard it. Lesson 4. Seek wisdom as silver and search for her as hidden treasure. Proverbs chapter 2, verses 3 through 5 tell us, "Indeed, if you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, and if you look for it as for silver and search for it as for hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God." Do you want wisdom? Really want it? Then you have to pursue it. You have to seek it like you'd seek silver. You have to search for it like you'd search for hidden treasure. This isn't passive. This isn't casual. This isn't something you stumble into or happen upon by accident. This is active, intentional, relentless pursuit. Think about that imagery for a moment. If you knew there was treasure buried somewhere, would you casually glance around for it? Would you give it a half-hearted effort and then give up when you didn't find it immediately? Of course not. You'd dig, you'd search, you'd be systematic, you'd be thorough. You'd be persistent, you'd be relentless, you'd invest time, energy, resources into finding it. You'd be consumed by the pursuit. You'd think about it constantly. You'd research where to look. You'd study maps. You'd talk to people who might have information. You'd try different strategies. You'd keep going even when you got tired, even when you got discouraged, even when it seemed like you weren't making progress. That's how we're supposed to seek wisdom. With intensity, with focus, with determination, with the same passion and commitment that someone would have if they were searching for buried treasure. Because in a very real sense, wisdom is treasure. It's more valuable than silver. It's more precious than gold. It's worth more than any material possession you could acquire. Proverbs tells us repeatedly that wisdom is better than rubies, that nothing you desire can compare with her. And yet, how many of us are actually pursuing wisdom with that level of intensity? Most of us treat wisdom as optional, as something nice to have, but not essential. We might read a devotional now and then, listen to a sermon occasionally, think about spiritual things when we're in a particularly reflective mood. But that's not what Proverbs is describing. Proverbs is describing a pursuit, a quest, a relentless search. It's calling out for insight, it's crying aloud for understanding, it's looking for wisdom like you'd look for silver. It's searching for wisdom like you'd search for hidden treasure. What would that look like practically? It would mean you're constantly seeking to learn, you're reading books that challenge you to grow, you're studying scripture not just to check a box, but to genuinely understand what God is saying. You're listening to teaching that stretches you. You're sitting at the feet of people who are wiser than you, asking questions, seeking their perspective, learning from their experience. You're reflecting on your own life, examining your patterns, considering your choices, evaluating your decisions. You're praying and asking God for wisdom, genuinely seeking His guidance in every area of your life. It would mean you're not satisfied with surface-level understanding. You dig deeper. When you read a verse, you don't just move on. You meditate on it. You think about it. You ask questions. What does this mean? How does this apply to my life? What is God trying to teach me through this? You wrestle with difficult concepts. You pursue understanding even when it's hard, even when it takes time, even when it requires effort. It would mean you're intentional about learning from your experiences. You don't just go through life on autopilot. You reflect. You consider what you can learn from your successes and your failures. You think about what worked and what didn't. You seek to understand why things happened the way they did. You ask yourself what you could have done differently, what you would do differently next time. And here's the promise. If you seek wisdom like that, if you pursue it with everything you have, you will find it. You will understand the fear of the Lord. You will find the knowledge of God. Wisdom is available. But it's reserved for those who are serious about finding it. It's not handed out casually to those who are merely curious. It's given to those who pursue it relentlessly, who value it supremely, who are willing to invest whatever it takes to obtain it. So the question is, how badly do you want wisdom? Are you pursuing it like treasure, or are you treating it like an afterthought? Are you actively seeking it, or are you just hoping it will somehow come to you? Because if you want wisdom, if you really want it, you have to go after it. You have to seek it like silver. You have to search for it like hidden treasure. Lesson 5. The tongue has the power of life and death. Proverbs chapter 18 verse 21 says, "The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit." Your words matter. They matter more than you probably realize. They matter more than most of us want to acknowledge, because if we really understood the power of our words, we'd be much more careful with them. Words can build up or tear down. They can heal or wound. They can encourage or discourage. They can inspire or crush. They can give hope or steal it away. They can create connection or cause division. They can express love or communicate rejection. And Proverbs is telling us that the power of life and death is in the tongue. That's not hyperbole. That's not poetic exaggeration. That's reality. Think about the words that have been spoken over you in your life. There are probably words that were said to you years ago, maybe even decades ago, that still echo in your mind today. Words of affirmation that gave you confidence, that made you believe in yourself, that encouraged you to pursue your dreams. Words of criticism that planted seeds of doubt, that made you question your worth, that made you feel like you weren't good enough. Words of love that made you feel valued, cherished, important. Words of rejection that made you feel unwanted, unimportant, insignificant. Some of those words were spoken by people who probably don't even remember saying them. A teacher who made an offhand comment, a coach who expressed frustration, a parent who spoke out of their own pain, a friend who said something thoughtless. But you remember because words have power. They shape us. They influence us. They affect us at the deepest levels of our being. They can give life or they can bring death. And you have that same power in your mouth. Every time you speak, you're releasing something into the world. You're either speaking life or speaking death. You're either building someone up or tearing them down. You're either giving hope or stealing it away. And here's the sobering part. Those who love it will eat its fruit. In other words, you will experience the consequences of your words. If you sow life with your words, you'll reap life. If you speak words of encouragement, blessing, affirmation, truth, love, you'll see the fruit of that in your life and in your relationships. People will be drawn to you. They'll trust you. They'll open up to you. They'll seek you out. Your relationships will flourish. Your influence will grow. Your life will be rich with connection and meaning. But if you sow death with your words, you'll reap death. If you speak words of criticism, complaint, gossip, negativity, harshness, cruelty, you'll see the fruit of that too. People will avoid you. They'll put up walls. They'll keep their distance. Your relationships will suffer. Your influence will diminish. Your life will be marked by conflict and isolation. So be careful, be intentional, think before you speak. This doesn't mean you can never say anything difficult or challenging. There are times when truth needs to be spoken, when correction needs to be given, when difficult conversations need to happen. But even then, even in those moments, you can choose words that build up rather than tear down. You can speak truth in love. You can correct with grace. You can challenge with respect. Ask yourself before you speak, is what I'm about to say true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it going to build up or tear down? Is it going to give life or bring death? Will I be glad I said this an hour from now, a day from now, a year from now? Or will I wish I could take it back? Because once words are spoken, they can't be unspoken. You can apologize. You can ask for forgiveness. You can try to make amends, but you can't erase the words. They're out there. They've been heard. They've had their effect. Think about the power you have in your everyday interactions. When your spouse makes a mistake, you can respond with grace or with criticism. When your child is struggling, you can offer encouragement or express frustration. When your coworker shares an idea, you can affirm them or dismiss them. When someone is going through a difficult time, you can speak hope or add to their burden. Every single interaction is an opportunity to speak life or death. And it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. The same words can communicate completely different messages depending on your tone, your body language, your facial expression. That's interesting can be said in a way that communicates genuine interest, or in a way that drips with sarcasm and condescension. We need to talk can be said in a way that feels safe, or in a way that creates anxiety. I love you can be said in a way that feels authentic, or in a way that feels obligatory. Your words have power. Use them wisely, use them carefully, use them to speak life. Because the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Lesson 6. Pride goes before destruction. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. One of the most well-known verses in the entire book. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Pride is dangerous. It's one of the most destructive forces in the human heart. And Proverbs warns us about it again and again throughout the entire book. Why? Because pride is subtle, it's deceptive, it creeps in unnoticed, and by the time you realize it's there, it's already done significant damage. Pride blinds us. It makes us think we're better than we are. It makes us think we're smarter than we are. It makes us think we're more capable than we are. It makes us think we don't need God. It makes us think we don't need others. It makes us unteachable, unreachable, unbearable. Pride says, I've got this. I don't need help. I know better. I can figure it out on my own. I don't need anyone to tell me what to do. And that's exactly when we're most vulnerable. That's exactly when destruction is closest. That's exactly when we're about to fall. Because pride always leads to a fall. It's not a maybe. It's not a possibility. It's a certainty. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. It's a law as reliable as gravity. When you exalt yourself, you will be brought low. When you think you're invincible, you're about to be humbled. When you think you've got it all figured out, you're about to discover how much you don't know. You see it throughout history. Mighty empires that thought they were invincible, they fell. Powerful leaders who thought they were untouchable, they were brought down. Successful businesses that thought they were too big to fail, they collapsed. And it always started with pride. It always started with the arrogant assumption that they were above the rules, above consequences, above the need for humility and dependence on God. You see it in Scripture. King Nebuchadnezzar boasted about his own greatness and was reduced to living like an animal. King Saul refused to humble himself before God and lost his kingdom. Haman's pride led him to plot genocide and ended with him being hanged on the very gallows he'd built for someone else. The Pharisees' spiritual pride blinded them to the Messiah they'd been waiting for. Judas's pride wouldn't allow him to repent and led him to suicide. Pride destroyed them all. And you see it in your own life if you're honest. Every time you've fallen, every time you've failed, every time you've crashed and burned, if you look back honestly, there was pride somewhere in the equation. Maybe it was obvious. Maybe you were blatantly arrogant, thinking you knew better than everyone else, refusing to listen to advice, ignoring warning signs. Or maybe it was subtle. Maybe it was just a quiet confidence that you had it under control. A subtle self-reliance that kept you from seeking God or asking for help. But it was there. Pride is always there before the fall. So what's the antidote to pride? Humility. And humility doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It doesn't mean having low self-esteem or constantly putting yourself down. That's not humility. That's just pride turned inward, still making everything about you. True humility means thinking of yourself less. It means recognizing that everything you have, everything you are, everything you've accomplished, it's all a gift from God. It's all grace. You didn't create yourself. You didn't give yourself your talents or your abilities. You didn't orchestrate the opportunities that came your way. God did. And when you live from that place of humility, when you acknowledge your dependence on God and your need for others, you're protected. You're safe. You're on solid ground. Humility means you can admit when you're wrong. You can say, I don't know. You can ask for help. You can receive correction. You can learn from others. You can recognize your limitations. You can acknowledge your need for God. And when you do that, when you live in humility rather than pride, you're not setting yourself up for a fall. You're positioning yourself for blessing, for growth, for genuine success that endures. But when pride creeps in, and it will try to creep in constantly, watch out, be alert, be vigilant, because destruction is right around the corner. A fall is imminent, and the higher you've climbed in your pride, the harder you're going to fall. So stay humble, stay teachable, stay dependent on God. Because pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Lesson 7. A gentle answer turns away. Wrath. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1 says, A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. How many conflicts could be avoided if we just remembered this one simple truth? How many arguments could be prevented? How many relationships could be preserved? How much pain could be avoided? A gentle answer turns away wrath. It's such a simple principle, and yet it's so difficult to live out in the moment. Think about the last time someone came at you with anger, with frustration, with hostility. Maybe it was your spouse, upset about something you did or didn't do. Maybe it was your boss, frustrated about a project that didn't go well. Maybe it was a friend who felt hurt or offended. Maybe it was a customer or client who was dissatisfied. Maybe it was a stranger on the road who felt you cut them off. Whatever the situation, someone was angry, and they directed that anger at you. What was your immediate response? If you're honest, your natural instinct was probably to respond in kind, to defend yourself, to justify your actions, to explain why they're wrong, to fire back, to escalate, to match their anger with your own. That's human nature. When someone comes at us with hostility, we want to protect ourselves, assert ourselves, fight back. We feel attacked, so we attack back. But Proverbs is giving us a different way. A better way, a wiser way. Respond with gentleness, respond with calm, respond with grace. A gentle answer turns away wrath. When someone comes at you with anger and you respond with gentleness, something amazing happens. The anger dissipates, the tension decreases, the situation de-escalates. It's like throwing water on a fire. The gentle response doesn't fuel the anger, it extinguishes it. It takes the wind out of the sails. It disrupts the expected pattern of escalation. Why does this work? Because when someone is angry, they're expecting you to fight back. They're braced for conflict. Their adrenaline is pumping. They're ready for battle. But when you respond with gentleness instead, it catches them off guard. It disarms them. They don't know what to do with it. And often they realize that their anger is disproportionate, that their hostility is unwarranted. Your gentle response creates space for them to calm down, to reflect, to see the situation more clearly. But if you respond with harshness, if you match their anger with your own, all you're doing is pouring fuel on the fire. You're stirring up more anger. You're making things worse. A harsh word stirs up anger. What started as one person being upset now becomes two people being upset. What started as a manageable conflict now becomes an explosive fight. What could have been resolved quickly now drags on and causes lasting damage. Think about it. How often have you said something harsh in a moment of anger that you deeply regretted later? How often have you escalated a conflict unnecessarily because you couldn't control your tongue? How often have you damaged a relationship because you responded with harshness instead of gentleness? And here's the painful truth. You can apologize later. You can try to make amends. But you can never completely erase the impact of those harsh words. They're out there. They've been heard. They've done their damage. Now, this doesn't mean you become a doormat. It doesn't mean you don't stand up for yourself. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you or treat you disrespectfully. There are times when boundaries need to be set, when injustice needs to be confronted, when truth needs to be spoken. But even then, even in those moments, you can do it with a gentle answer. You can be firm without being harsh. You can be clear without being cruel. You can stand your ground without stirring up more anger. Jesus modeled this perfectly. When he was accused, when he was mocked, when he was physically abused, he didn't retaliate. He didn't respond with harshness. He remained calm, gentle, full of grace. Even on the cross, being crucified unjustly, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." That's the ultimate gentle answer, turning away wrath. So the next time someone comes at you with anger, the next time you feel that surge of defensiveness and that urge to fire back, pause, take a breath, remember this proverb, and respond with a gentle answer. Watch what happens. Watch how it turns away wrath. Watch how it de-escalates the situation. Watch how it preserves the relationship. Watch how it reflects the character of Christ. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Lesson 8. Walk with the wise and become wise. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20 tells us, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." You become like the people you spend time with. This is one of the most important truths you'll ever learn. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. Show me who you're walking with, and I'll show you who you're becoming. That might sound harsh, but it's true. The people you surround yourself with have a massive influence on who you become. Think about it. When you spend time with someone, you don't just share space with them. You absorb their attitudes, their values, their habits, their way of thinking. It happens gradually, almost imperceptibly, but it happens. If you're constantly around people who are negative, you'll become more negative. If you're constantly around people who complain, you'll find yourself complaining more. If you're constantly around people who gossip, you'll find it harder to resist joining in. If you're constantly around people who make excuses, you'll find yourself making more excuses. On the flip side, if you're constantly around people who are positive, you'll become more positive. If you're constantly around people who are grateful, you'll become more grateful. If you're constantly around people who speak life, you'll find yourself speaking life more. If you're constantly around people who take responsibility, you'll find yourself taking more responsibility. Walk with the wise and become wise. If you're constantly around people who are wise, who are pursuing God, who are making good decisions, who are growing, who are intentional about their lives, who have their priorities right, you will become wise. You will grow. You will be shaped by their influence in positive ways. You'll learn from their example. You'll be challenged by their perspective. You'll be inspired by their commitment. You'll be encouraged by their growth, and over time, you'll find yourself making wiser decisions, having better priorities, growing in ways you never would have on your own. But for a companion of fools suffers harm. If you're constantly around fools, around people who are reckless, who are making bad decisions, who are living foolishly, who are pulling you away from God, who are encouraging you to compromise your values, who are leading you down destructive paths, you will suffer harm. You will be dragged down. You will be influenced in destructive ways. Their foolishness will rub off on you. Their bad decisions will start to seem normal. Their low standards will become your standards. And before you know it, you'll find yourself making the same foolish choices they're making. This is why it's so important to be intentional about your relationships. Not in a self-righteous, judgmental way, but in a wise, protective way. Not because you think you're better than others, but because you recognize that relationships are influential and you want to be influenced in positive ways rather than negative ways. Who are you spending the most time with? Who are your closest friends? Who are the people you're walking with day by day? Are they making you better or worse? Are they pulling you closer to God or further away? Are they encouraging you to grow or enabling you to stay stagnant? Are they speaking truth into your life or feeding your ego? Are they challenging you to become the person God created you to be or encouraging you to settle for less? These are important questions. And if you find that you're surrounded by the wrong people, if you find that your closest relationships are dragging you down rather than building you up, it might be time to make some changes. That doesn't mean you completely cut people out of your life in a cruel or heartless way, but it does mean you might need to adjust the level of influence they have. It might mean you need to spend less time with certain people and more time with others. It might mean you need to seek out new friendships, new mentors, new influences. It might mean you need to be more intentional about surrounding yourself with people who will make you better. And here's the thing. If you want to become wise, you need to intentionally seek out wise people and learn from them. You need to find mentors who are further along in the journey than you are. You need to surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow. You need to put yourself in environments where wisdom is valued and pursued. You need to walk with the wise. Who are the wisest people you know? Are you spending time with them? Are you learning from them? Are you asking them questions? Are you observing how they make decisions, how they handle conflict, how they manage their relationships, how they navigate challenges? Or are you spending all your time with people who aren't growing, who aren't pursuing wisdom, who aren't making you better. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Choose your companions wisely, because they will shape who you become. Lesson 9. The righteous care about justice for the poor. Proverbs chapter 29 verse 7 says, "The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked have no such concern." If you want to know what's in someone's heart, look at how they treat the vulnerable. Look at how they treat the poor, the marginalized, the overlooked, the powerless, the oppressed. Because righteousness isn't just about personal piety. It's not just about how holy you appear, or how many Bible verses you can quote, or how often you attend church, or how much you pray. Righteousness is demonstrated in how you treat others, especially those who can't do anything for you in return. God cares deeply about justice. He cares about the poor. He cares about the oppressed. He cares about the widow, the orphan, the stranger, the marginalized. This isn't a peripheral issue in Scripture. It's central. From the law given to Moses, to the prophets, to the teachings of Jesus, to the letters of the apostles, the consistent message is clear. God's people are called to care about justice for the poor. In the Old Testament, God commanded his people to leave the edges of their fields unharvested so the poor could glean. He commanded them to cancel debts every 7 years so people wouldn't be trapped in perpetual poverty. He commanded them to treat foreigners with the same justice as citizens. He warned them repeatedly not to oppress the poor, not to deny them justice, not to take advantage of their vulnerability. And when Israel failed to care about justice for the poor, when they oppressed the vulnerable and ignored the needy, God sent prophets to pronounce judgment. Their religious observance meant nothing if they weren't pursuing justice. In the New Testament, Jesus began his ministry by announcing good news to the poor. He spent his time with the marginalized, the tax collectors, the sinners, the sick, the outcasts, the people that respectable religious folks avoided. He told his followers that when they cared for the hungry, the thirsty, the stranger, the naked, the sick, the imprisoned, they were caring for him. And he warned that those who ignored the needs of the vulnerable would face judgment. James wrote that pure religion is caring for widows and orphans in their distress. John wrote that if someone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need but has no compassion, how can the love of God be in that person? Paul organized relief efforts for the poor and urged believers to remember the poor. The early church was characterized by radical generosity, by people selling their possessions to help those in need, by a community where no one lacked because others shared what they had. And Proverbs tells us that the righteous care about justice for the poor. Notice it doesn't just say they feel bad about poverty. It doesn't just say they wish things were different. It says they care about justice. That's active. That's engaged. That means actually doing something about it. It means being generous. It means advocating. It means standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. It means using whatever resources, influence, or platform you have to make a difference. The wicked, Proverbs says, have no such concern. They're indifferent. They're apathetic. They're focused only on themselves, on their own comfort, on their own prosperity. They might even justify their lack of concern with rationalizations. They're poor because they're lazy. If they just worked harder, they wouldn't be in that situation. It's not my responsibility. I have my own problems to deal with. But God isn't buying those excuses. The wicked have no concern for justice for the poor. So where do you fall? Are you righteous or wicked by this standard? Do you care about justice for the poor? Not just in a vague, theoretical way, but in a practical, active way. When you see poverty, when you encounter injustice, when you become aware of oppression, what do? Do you actually do something? Or do you look away? Do you make excuses? Do you blame the victims? Do you justify your inaction? Now, this doesn't mean you have to single-handedly solve poverty. You can't help everyone. You can't fix every problem. You can't right every wrong, but you can do something. You can be generous with what you have. You can support organizations that are working to address poverty and injustice. You can use your voice to advocate for policies that protect the vulnerable. You can volunteer your time to serve those in need. You can mentor someone who's trying to break the cycle of poverty. You can hire someone who's struggling to find work. You can be intentional about where you spend your money, supporting businesses and organizations that treat workers fairly. And beyond the practical actions, there's a heart issue here. Do you even notice the poor? Or have you insulated yourself so completely that you don't even see them? Have you structured your life in such a way that you never encounter poverty, never interact with people who are struggling, never have to think about injustice? Because if you never see it, if you never think about it, if it never crosses your mind, that's revealing something about your heart. The righteous care about justice for the poor. That's not optional. That's not extra credit. That's not a suggestion for particularly spiritual people. That's what righteousness looks like. So examine your heart, examine your life, examine your priorities. Are you caring about justice for the poor, or do you have no such concern? Lesson 10. Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 27 says, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in your power to act." This is such a simple yet profound principle. If you have the ability to do good, do it. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. Don't make excuses. Don't overthink it. Just do it. If someone is in need and you have the resources to help, help. If someone deserves recognition and you have the opportunity to give it, give it. If someone needs encouragement and you have the words to offer, offer them. If someone has done good work and you have the ability to compensate them fairly, compensate them. Do not withhold good. Why do we withhold good? Sometimes it's selfishness. We don't want to give up our time, our money, our energy, our resources. We'd rather keep them for ourselves. We'd rather use them for our own comfort, our own pleasure, our own purposes. So even though we could help, even though we could give, even though we could act, we don't. We hold back. We withhold. Sometimes it's fear. We're worried about how it will be received. We're worried about whether it will be appreciated. We're worried about whether we'll get credit for it. We're worried about what others will think. We're worried about setting a precedent or creating an expectation. So we hold back. We withhold. Sometimes it's just laziness. We think, I'll do it later. We tell ourselves we'll help next time. We'll give when it's more convenient. We'll act when we have more time or more money or more energy. But later never comes. The need doesn't wait. The opportunity passes. The moment is lost. And what we could have done, what we should have done, remains undone. Sometimes it's because we don't think we have enough. We think, if I help this person, if I give this away, if I use my resources for someone else, I won't have enough for myself. So we hoard, we hold on tight, we withhold, because we're operating from a scarcity mindset rather than a mindset of abundance and trust in God's provision. But Proverbs is telling us, when it's in your power to act, act. When you have the ability to do good, do good. When the resources are there, when the opportunity is there, when the need is there and you have the means to meet it, don't withhold. Do it. Do it now. Don't delay. Don't make excuses. Don't hold back. Think about the people in your life right now. Is there someone who needs help that you could provide? Is there someone who deserves recognition that you could give? Is there someone who needs encouragement that you could offer? Is there someone you owe money to, someone you need to pay, someone who deserves compensation, and you have the means to provide it? Then do it. Don't withhold good. Think about the opportunities in front of you. Is there a cause you could support? Is there a need you could meet? Is there a person you could bless? Is there an act of kindness you could do? Is there generosity you could show? Is there grace you could extend? Then do it. When it's in your power to act, act. Because here's the thing, opportunities to do good don't last forever. The moment passes, the need changes, the person moves on, and what you could have done, what you should have done, you can't do anymore. The opportunity is gone. And you live with the regret of knowing you withheld good when you had the power to give it. Jesus told a parable about this. A rich man lived in luxury every day, while a poor beggar named Lazarus sat at his gate, longing for the scraps from the rich man's table. The rich man had the power to help. He had abundant resources. The need was literally at his doorstep. But he withheld good. He didn't help. And when both men died, the rich man found himself in torment, while Lazarus was comforted. The rich man's problem wasn't that he was rich, it was that he withheld good when it was in his power to act. James wrote, "Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? What good is it to recognize the need, to acknowledge the opportunity to say nice things, but then withhold the good that's in your power to give? It's empty. It's hollow. It's worthless, so don't withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is in your power to act. If you can help, help. If you can give, give. If you can act, act. Do it now, while you still can, because the opportunity won't last forever, and you don't want to live with the regret of knowing you could have made a difference, but chose not to. Lesson 11. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." None of us are as smart as we think we are. And none of us have all the answers. That's a hard truth to accept, especially in a culture that celebrates self-sufficiency and independence. We like to think we've got it figured out. We like to believe we can handle things on our own. We don't want to admit that we need help, that we need input, that we need the wisdom and perspective of others. But Proverbs is telling us a fundamental truth. Plans fail for lack of counsel. When we try to do everything on our own, when we refuse to seek counsel, when we think we've got it all figured out, when we're too proud or too stubborn or too impatient to ask for advice, that's when our plans fail. That's when we make mistakes. That's when we miss things we should have seen. That's when we pursue paths that lead nowhere. That's when we make decisions we later regret. Why? Because our perspective is limited. We can't see everything. We can't know everything. We can't think of everything. We have blind spots. We have biases. We have limitations. And when we refuse to seek counsel, when we insist on figuring everything out on our own, those limitations lead to failure. But with many advisors, they succeed. When we humble ourselves and seek out counsel, when we listen to multiple perspectives, when we're willing to be corrected and guided, when we tap into the wisdom and experience of others, that's when our plans succeed. That's when we make better decisions. That's when we avoid pitfalls. That's when we see things we wouldn't have seen on our own. That's when we benefit from the accumulated wisdom of others who have gone before us, who have made the mistakes we're about to make, who have learned the lessons we need to learn. Notice it says many advisors, not just one, many. Because no single person has all the answers either. Even the wisest person has limitations, has blind spots, has their own perspective that might not be complete. So you need multiple counselors. You need to hear from different people with different perspectives, different experiences, different areas of expertise, and then you take all that counsel, you weigh it, you consider it, you seek God's wisdom in it, and you make the best decision you can. Now, this doesn't mean you take every piece of advice you receive. Not all counsel is good counsel. Not everyone who offers advice has wisdom to give. You need to be discerning. You need to consider the source. Is this person wise? Are they trustworthy? Do they have experience in this area? Do their lives demonstrate the fruit of good decision-making? Are they seeking God's wisdom, or are they just offering their opinion based on limited understanding? But it does mean you're intentional about surrounding yourself with wise people and actually listening to them. It means you're not so arrogant that you think you don't need input. It means you recognize that wisdom is found in a multitude of counselors. It means you create a circle of advisors, mentors, friends, family members, pastors, professionals, people who know you, care about you, want what's best for you, and have the wisdom and perspective to guide you well. Think about the major decisions in your life. Think about the plans you're making. Are you seeking counsel, or are you trying to figure it out all on your own? Are you listening to wise advisors, or are you stubbornly insisting on doing things your way? Are you humble enough to receive input, or are you too proud to admit you might not have all the answers? I can almost guarantee you that the biggest mistakes you've made, the worst decisions you've regretted, they happened when you didn't seek counsel. They happened when you thought you knew better. They happened when you were too proud or too impatient to ask for advice. And I can almost guarantee you that the best decisions you've made, the plans that succeeded, they happened when you sought wise counsel and listened to it. So be intentional about this. Identify the wise people in your life. Build relationships with them. When you're facing a decision, reach out to them. Ask for their perspective. Listen to what they have to say. Consider their counsel seriously. And trust that with many advisors, your plans will succeed. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Don't try to figure everything out on your own. Seek counsel. Listen to advice. Learn from others. That's wisdom. Lesson 12. Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. Proverbs chapter 16 verse 3 says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans." Do you want your plans to succeed? Do you want your work to be fruitful? Do you want your efforts to produce lasting results? Then commit it to the Lord. This is such an important principle, and yet it's one that's easy to overlook or neglect, especially in our culture that emphasizes self-reliance and personal achievement. What does it mean to commit your work to the Lord? It means you bring everything you do before God. You pray over it. You ask for His guidance. You surrender it to His will. You say, "God, this is what I'm planning to do. This is what I'm working on. This is the direction I'm heading, but I'm not holding it so tightly that I can't let go if you show me a different way. I'm committing this to you. I'm submitting this to your authority. I'm acknowledging that without you, I can do nothing of lasting value. So I'm asking you to guide me, to direct me, to work through me. If this is your will, bless it and make it fruitful. If this isn't your will, redirect me. Close doors that need to be closed. Open doors that need to be opened. Have your way." This is the opposite of how most of us approach our plans and our work. Most of us make our plans first and then maybe pray about them after. We decide what we want to do, we figure out how we're going to do it, we set everything in motion. And then, almost as an afterthought, we pray and ask God to bless what we've already decided to do. But that's not committing your work to the Lord. That's asking God to rubber stamp your plans. Committing your work to the Lord means you start with God. You seek His will first. You ask Him what He wants you to do before you decide what you want to do. You submit your plans to Him before they're set in stone. You hold everything loosely, recognizing that God's plans are better than your plans. God's ways are better than your ways. God's timing is better than your timing. And when you do that, when you genuinely commit your work to the Lord, He will establish your plans. That's the promise. God will make your plans succeed. He will make your work fruitful. He will establish what you're doing. Now, that doesn't mean he'll establish your plans exactly as you envisioned them. It doesn't mean everything will go the way you expected. It doesn't mean there won't be challenges or obstacles or delays. But it does mean that when you commit your work to the Lord, when you truly surrender it to Him, He will guide you into the plans He has for you, plans that are better than anything you could have come up with on your own. Sometimes that means God will bless the plans you've made. You'll commit your work to Him, and He'll open doors, provide resources, bring the right people alongside you, give you favor and success. And you'll see that what you committed to Him has been established and has produced fruit beyond what you could have imagined. But sometimes it means God will redirect you. You'll commit your plans to Him, and He'll close doors you thought would open. He'll remove obstacles you thought were necessary. He'll change circumstances in ways you didn't expect. And at first it might feel like failure. It might feel like your plans fell apart. But if you trust Him, if you continue to commit your work to Him, you'll eventually see that He was redirecting you away from what you wanted toward what He wanted. Something better, something more aligned with His purposes, something that will ultimately bring more fruit and more fulfillment than your original plans ever would have. The key is the committing. The key is the surrendering. The key is truly giving your work to the Lord rather than just asking Him to bless what you've already decided to do. So many of us try to establish our own plans. We work and strive and push and force. We try to make things happen in our own strength. We try to control outcomes. We try to engineer success, and we wonder why things aren't working out. We wonder why we're exhausted. We wonder why our efforts aren't producing fruit. We wonder why we feel like we're spinning our wheels. Maybe it's because we haven't committed it to the Lord. Maybe it's because we're trying to do it in our own strength instead of surrendering it to Him. Maybe it's because we're so focused on our plans that we haven't stopped to ask if they're aligned with His plans. So whatever you're working on right now, whatever plans you're making, whatever dreams you're pursuing, commit it to the Lord. Really commit it. Not just in a token, superficial way, but genuinely. Surrender it to Him. Pray over it. Seek His will. Be willing to adjust if He shows you a different way. Trust that His plans are better than yours, and then watch what He does. Watch how He establishes your plans in ways you never could have on your own. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. That's a promise you can count on. Lesson 13. Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 25 says, "Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up." Anxiety is heavy. It's a burden. It's a weight that presses down on you, that steals your joy, your peace, your energy, your ability to function. If you've ever experienced anxiety, and most of us have, you know exactly what this verse is talking about. Anxiety weighs down the heart. It makes everything harder. It makes simple tasks feel overwhelming. It makes the future feel terrifying. It makes the present feel unbearable. It drains the life out of you. And in a world that's constantly throwing new worries at us, financial pressures, health concerns, relationship struggles, work stress, global crises, political divisions, social unrest, anxiety can feel inescapable. It can feel like a constant companion, a weight we're always carrying, a burden we can never quite put down. For some people, anxiety is so severe that it's clinical, requiring professional treatment and medication. For others, it's more situational, coming and going depending on circumstances. But whether it's clinical or situational, severe or mild, chronic or occasional, anxiety weighs down the heart. But Proverbs gives us a beautiful, simple remedy, a kind word. A kind word cheers the heart up. It lifts the burden. It brings light into the darkness. It provides relief. It offers hope. It reminds us that we're not alone, that someone cares, that things might be okay after all. Never underestimate the power of a kind word. You have no idea what someone is carrying. You have no idea how heavy their heart is. You have no idea what anxieties are pressing down on them, what fears are consuming them, what worries are keeping them up at night. But your words, a simple compliment, a word of encouragement, an expression of care, an acknowledgement of their struggle, a reminder of their worth, a statement of belief in them, can make all the difference. It can be the thing that lifts them out of the pit, even if just for a moment. It can be the thing that gives them hope. It can be the thing that reminds them they're seen, they're valued, they matter. Think about the times in your own life when you were weighed down by anxiety. Maybe you were worried about your health, and someone spoke words of hope and faith over you. Maybe you were anxious about your finances, and someone reminded you of God's faithfulness in the past. Maybe you were stressed about a relationship, and someone offered perspective and encouragement. Maybe you were overwhelmed by responsibilities, and someone spoke words of affirmation that reminded you you're capable. Those kind words, they mattered, didn't they? They lifted you. They helped. They made a difference. You have that same power. You can speak kind words that cheer up hearts weighed down by anxiety. So be generous with kind words. Look for opportunities to encourage. Don't hold back. Don't assume someone doesn't need it. Don't think your words won't matter. They do. They matter more than you realize. When you see someone struggling, speak a kind word. When you notice someone who seems weighed down, speak a kind word. When you interact with the cashier who looks exhausted, the co-worker who seems stressed, the friend who's been quiet lately, the family member who's going through a hard time, speak a kind word. It doesn't have to be profound or eloquent. It doesn't have to solve their problem. It just has to be kind, genuine, and encouraging. I appreciate you. You're doing a great job. I believe in you. I'm proud of you. Thank you for all you do. You matter. I'm praying for you. You're not alone. This is hard, but you're going to get through it. I see how hard you're working. You're stronger than you think. Simple words, kind words, words that cheer the heart up. And here's the beautiful thing. When you speak kind words to others, when you help lift the burden of their anxiety, you'll find that your own heart is lifted as well. There's something about encouraging others that encourages us. There's something about speaking life that brings life to us. There's something about cheering up others that cheers us up. Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. So speak kind words. Speak them generously. Speak them intentionally. Speak them often. Because you never know when your kind word might be exactly what someone needs to lift the weight they're carrying. Lesson 14. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. Proverbs chapter 11 verse 25 says, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." This is one of the great paradoxes of the Christian life, one of those principles that seems counterintuitive, that doesn't make sense by the world's logic, but that proves true every time. When you give, you receive. When you refresh others, you yourself are refreshed. When you pour out, you're filled up. When you bless others, you end up blessed. The world doesn't work this way. The world says, hold on to what you have. Protect yourself. Don't give too much because you'll run out. Look out for number one. If you pour yourself out for others, you'll have nothing left for yourself. The world operates on scarcity, on competition, on self-preservation. But God's economy works differently. In God's kingdom, generosity leads to prosperity. In God's kingdom, those who refresh others are themselves refreshed. What does it mean to refresh others? It means you encourage them, serve them, support them, bless them, strengthen them, restore them. You give them what they need in a moment when they need it. Maybe it's practical help. You see someone struggling and you step in to assist. Maybe it's emotional support. You see someone hurting, and you offer comfort. Maybe it's spiritual encouragement. You see someone doubting, and you remind them of truth. Maybe it's financial generosity. You see someone in need, and you provide. Maybe it's simply your presence. You see someone lonely, and you show up. When you refresh others, when you give of yourself for their benefit, when you invest in their well-being, when you serve them without expecting anything in return, something amazing happens. You yourself are refreshed. Not because you're doing it to get something in return, but because that's just how God designed things. Generosity creates a cycle of blessing. Refreshing others refreshes you. Why does this work? Because you were created for this. You were created to be generous, to serve, to bless others. And when you live according to how you were created, when you fulfill your purpose, when you do what you were designed to do, you're refreshed, you're renewed, you're filled up. There's a deep satisfaction, a profound joy, a sense of meaning that comes from refreshing others that you can't get any other way. Think about the times you've served others, the times you've been generous, the times you've gone out of your way to bless someone. How did you feel afterward? If you're honest, you probably felt refreshed, didn't you? Even if you were tired physically, there was an energy, a joy, a satisfaction that came from making a difference in someone's life. That's what Proverbs is talking about. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. But beyond the emotional and spiritual reality of being refreshed, there's also a practical reality. When you refresh others, when you're generous, when you bless people, you build relationships, you create connections, you develop trust. And those relationships, those connections, that trust, they end up blessing you. People remember your kindness. They reciprocate your generosity. They support you when you need support. They encourage you when you need encouragement. They show up for you the way you showed up for them. Now, that shouldn't be your motivation. You shouldn't refresh others in order to get something back. That's manipulation, not generosity, but it is a natural consequence. When you sow generosity, you reap generosity. When you refresh others, you're refreshed. It's not a transaction. It's a principle. It's how God designed His kingdom to work. A generous person will prosper, not necessarily in terms of financial wealth, though sometimes that's part of it, but prosperity in the truest sense, prosperity of the soul, prosperity of relationships, prosperity of purpose and meaning, prosperity of joy and peace. When you live generously, when you refresh others, when you pour yourself out for the benefit of others, your life will be prosperous in the ways that matter most. So don't be stingy. Don't hold back. Don't live with a scarcity mindset, always worried that if you give, you won't have enough, always hoarding your time and energy and resources. Live generously. Look for opportunities to refresh others. Be intentional about blessing people. Serve without expectation, give without keeping score, encourage freely, support readily, show up consistently, and trust that as you refresh others, you will yourself be refreshed. That's God's promise, and it's a promise He always keeps. Lesson 15. Better a patient person than a warrior. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 32 says, "Better a patient person than a warrior, one with self-control than one who takes a city." In a world that celebrates strength, power, and conquest, in a culture that admires warriors and victors and champions, Proverbs is offering a different kind of strength. A strength that's often overlooked, often undervalued, often dismissed, but actually far more important and far more impressive than any physical strength or military conquest. Patience, self-control. These are the marks of true strength. Think about what it takes to be a warrior, to conquer a city. It takes physical strength, yes. It takes courage. It takes strategic thinking. It takes leadership. It takes the ability to rally others and lead them into battle. These are impressive qualities, and in certain contexts they're necessary and valuable. But Proverbs is saying that being a patient person is even better. Having self-control is even more impressive than taking a city. Why? Because anyone can lash out. Anyone can lose their temper. Anyone can react impulsively. Anyone can give in to their emotions, their urges, their immediate desires. That's easy. That's the path of least resistance. That doesn't require any strength at all. In fact, it's weakness disguised as strength. It's letting your emotions control you. It's being a slave to your impulses. It's being governed by whatever you're feeling in the moment. But to be patient, to exercise self-control, to remain calm when everything in you wants to explode, to wait when everything in you wants to act now, to control your tongue when everything in you wants to lash out, to restrain your impulses when everything in you wants to give in. That takes real strength. That's the strength of a warrior. That's true power. Power over yourself, power over your emotions, power over your reactions. Think about it. A warrior conquers external enemies. They defeat opponents outside themselves. But a person with self-control conquers the greatest enemy of all, themselves. They master their emotions. They master their impulses. They master their reactions. They master their desires. And that, Proverbs says, is better than taking a city, because what good is it to conquer the whole world if you can't even conquer yourself? What good is it to defeat external enemies if you're constantly being defeated by your own lack of self-control? This applies to so many areas of life. Think about relationships. It's easy to fire back when someone says something hurtful. It takes no strength at all to escalate an argument, to say the thing you know will wound, to react out of hurt or anger, but to be patient, to remain calm, to respond with grace instead of reacting out of emotion. That takes self-control. That takes real strength. Better a patient person than a warrior. Think about your work. It's easy to cut corners, to do just enough to get by, to give in to the temptation to slack off when no one's watching. But to maintain excellence, to do quality work even when you're tired, even when you're frustrated, even when you could get away with less, that takes self-control. That takes discipline. Better one with self-control than one who takes a city. Think about your health. It's easy to eat whatever you want, whenever you want. It's easy to skip the workout. It's easy to hit snooze instead of getting up. It's easy to give in to whatever you're craving in the moment. But to exercise regularly, to eat well even when you'd rather not, to take care of your body even when it's inconvenient, that takes self-control. That takes discipline. Better a patient person than a warrior. Think about your finances. It's easy to buy whatever you want on impulse. It's easy to spend now and worry about the consequences later. But to budget, to save, to delay gratification, to make wise financial decisions even when you want something right now, that takes self-control. Better one with self-control than one who takes a city. Think about your habits, your character, your spiritual life. It's easy to give in to temptation. It's easy to do what feels good in the moment, but to resist temptation, to say no to yourself, to pursue holiness even when it costs you, that takes self-control. That takes real strength. Better a patient person than a warrior. So the next time you're tempted to lose your patience, to react in anger, to give in to your impulses, to say something you'll regret, to do something you know you shouldn't do, remember this. Better a patient person than a warrior. Exercise self-control. Be patient. Master yourself. That's true strength. That's the kind of power that actually matters. That's the kind of victory that actually counts. Lesson 16, train up a child in the way they should go. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6 is one of the most famous verses about parenting. Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. This verse carries both a promise and a responsibility. Parents have an incredible opportunity and an incredible responsibility to shape the lives of their children. The way you raise your child, the values you instill, the example you set, the truths you teach, the habits you help them form, the character you help them develop, it matters. It matters more than almost anything else you'll do in life. And Proverbs is telling us, start them off on the way they should go. Don't wait. Don't assume they'll figure it out on their own. Don't leave their spiritual and moral development to chance, or to their friends, or to the culture, or to social media, or to the school system. You, as a parent, have the primary responsibility to train up your children, to start them off on the way they should go. What does that mean practically? It means you teach them about God. You don't just take them to church and hope that's enough. You talk about God in your home. You pray with them. You read scripture with them. You help them understand who God is, what He's like, what He's done, what He requires. You answer their questions. You model faith for them. You show them what it looks like to follow God, to trust God, to love God. It means you teach them about wisdom. You don't just expect the school to educate them and call it good. You teach them how to think, how to make good decisions, how to navigate challenges, how to solve problems, how to interact with others. You teach them the principles we're exploring in this very video, principles from Proverbs that will guide them for their entire lives. It means you teach them character. You don't just hope they'll turn out to be good people. You intentionally instill values. You teach them integrity, to do the right thing even when no one's watching, even when it costs them. You teach them honesty, to tell the truth even when it's hard. You teach them kindness, to treat others with dignity and respect. You teach them perseverance, to keep going even when things are difficult. You teach them responsibility, to own their choices and their actions. And most importantly, you model it for them. Because children don't just learn from what you tell them, they learn far more from what you show them. They're watching you. They're observing how you treat your spouse, how you speak to them, how you handle stress, how you deal with conflict, how you manage money, how you spend your time, how you respond when things don't go your way. They're watching and they're learning. So if you want to train up your child in the way they should go, you have to be going that way yourself. You have to live what you're teaching. You have to model the faith, the wisdom, the character you want to see in them. Now here's the promise. Even when they are old, they will not turn from it. Does this mean that if you do everything right, your child will never struggle, never make mistakes, never walk away from God for a season? No. We all have free will. We all make our own choices. Your children are not robots that you can program. They're human beings with their own wills, their own journeys, their own relationships with God. And sometimes, even children who were raised well, who were trained in the way they should go, sometimes they wander, sometimes they rebel, sometimes they make choices that break their parents' hearts. But here's what this verse is promising. The foundation you build in them will endure. The seeds you plant will eventually bear fruit. The training you provide will not be forgotten. It might get buried for a while under bad choices and wrong turns and prodigal seasons, but it's there. And more often than not, those children who were started off in the way they should go, they come back to it. Maybe not immediately, maybe not as quickly as you'd like, but the foundation holds, the training remains, and even when they are old, they don't turn from it. I've seen this play out countless times. Young people who were raised in Christian homes, who were taught the truth, who were trained in the way they should go, and then in their late teens or early 20s, they walked away. They rejected their faith, they pursued the world, they made destructive choices, and their parents prayed and wept and wondered if they'd failed. But then, years later, sometimes many years later, those prodigals came home. They returned to the faith. They returned to the values they were taught. They remembered the foundation, and they built their lives on it. Because the training held, the foundation endured. Even when they are old, they do not turn from it. So if you're a parent, take this seriously. Take it as both a challenge and an encouragement. The challenge is to be intentional about training your children. Don't be passive. Don't leave it to chance. Start them off on the way they should go. Invest in them. Teach them. Model for them. Build a foundation that will last. The encouragement is that your efforts will not be in vain. What you're building in your children will endure. Even if you can't see it right now, even if they're wandering, even if they seem to be rejecting everything you taught them, the foundation is there, the training remains, and one day, even when they are old, they will not turn from it. Train up a child in the way they should go. It's one of the most important things you'll ever do. Lesson 17, a cheerful heart is good medicine. Proverbs chapter 17 verse 22 says, "A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones." Your attitude matters. Your outlook matters. The state of your heart affects not just your emotional well-being, but your physical health as well. This isn't just spiritual truth. It's increasingly confirmed by medical science. There's a connection between your emotional state and your physical health. There's a connection between your attitude and your body. A cheerful heart is good medicine. It strengthens you. It heals you. It gives you resilience and energy and vitality and hope. But a crushed spirit, it dries up the bones. It drains you. It weakens you. It takes away your vitality. It makes you more susceptible to illness. It robs you of energy. It steals your joy. It makes everything harder. When your spirit is crushed, when your heart is heavy, when you're weighed down by discouragement or despair or hopelessness, it affects your entire being. Your body feels it. Your mind feels it. Everything suffers. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be happy all the time. It doesn't mean you ignore pain or pretend everything is fine when it's not. It doesn't mean you put on a fake smile and act like you're cheerful when you're actually hurting. That's not what Proverbs is talking about. That's not a cheerful heart. That's denial. A cheerful heart doesn't mean constant happiness or artificial positivity. It means something deeper. It means a heart that's anchored in hope, that's grounded in joy, that transcends circumstances, that's able to see the good even in the midst of difficulty. The Bible makes a distinction between happiness and joy. Happiness is circumstantial. It depends on what's happening around you. When things are going well, you're happy. When things go badly, you're not. But joy is different. Joy is deeper. Joy is a cheerfulness of heart that's rooted in something beyond your circumstances. It's rooted in who God is, in what He's done, in His promises, in His presence, in your identity as His child. And that joy, that cheerful heart, can coexist with pain, with difficulty, with suffering. You can have a cheerful heart even when your circumstances are hard. Think about Paul and Silas in the Book of Acts. They'd been beaten. They were in prison. Their backs were bloody. Their situation was dire. And what did they do? They sang. They had cheerful hearts even in those circumstances. Not because their circumstances were good, they weren't. But because their hearts were anchored in something beyond their circumstances. They were anchored in God. And that gave them a cheerfulness, a joy that no circumstance could steal. That's what Proverbs is talking about, a cheerful heart. And it's good medicine. It affects your health. It affects your body. It affects your ability to endure hardship, to overcome obstacles, to keep going when things are difficult. People with cheerful hearts tend to live longer, heal faster, have stronger immune systems, experience less physical pain, recover from illness more quickly. Joy is medicine. So how do you cultivate a cheerful heart? First, you choose gratitude. Even in difficult circumstances, even when things aren't going the way you want, you look for things to be grateful for. You focus on what you have rather than what you lack. You thank God for His blessings, His faithfulness, His presence. Gratitude cultivates cheerfulness. Second, you choose hope. You remind yourself that God is in control, that He's working even when you can't see it, that He has good plans for you, that He will never leave you or forsake you. Hope anchors your heart. Hope gives you a cheerful spirit, even when circumstances would suggest otherwise. Third, you surround yourself with joy. You choose to laugh. You seek out things that bring delight. You enjoy the simple pleasures of life. You don't take everything so seriously. You find reasons to smile, to be light-hearted, to experience moments of happiness. These things feed your cheerful heart. Fourth, you focus on what's true and good and lovely. You don't dwell on the negative. You don't ruminate on problems. You don't rehearse complaints. Instead, you think about what's good. You meditate on truth. You fix your eyes on Jesus, and that cultivates cheerfulness. A cheerful heart is good medicine. It will strengthen you, heal you, sustain you, so cultivate it, choose it, pursue it, not by denying reality or pretending pain doesn't exist, but by anchoring your heart in the joy that comes from knowing God, from trusting His faithfulness, from resting in His love. That's the cheerful heart that serves as good medicine, and it will change everything. Lesson 18. Listen to advice and accept instruction. Proverbs chapter 19 verse 20 says, "Listen to advice and accept discipline, and at the end you will be counted among the wise." Are you teachable? That's really what this verse is asking. Are you open to feedback? Are you willing to be corrected? Are you able to receive instruction without getting defensive? Or do you bristle at the slightest hint of criticism? Do you get offended when someone points out a mistake? Do you shut down when someone offers advice that conflicts with what you want to do? Wise people listen to advice. They accept instruction. They recognize that they don't have all the answers, and that others might see things they don't see. They're humble enough to admit when they're wrong. They're secure enough to receive correction without feeling threatened. They value growth more than they value being right. They care more about becoming wise than about appearing wise. Foolish people reject advice. They ignore instruction. They think they know better. They can't handle criticism. They interpret feedback as an attack. They refuse to be taught. They insist on learning everything the hard way. And Proverbs tells us where that leads. But those who listen to advice, those who accept discipline, those who are humble enough to learn from others, at the end, they will be counted among the wise. Notice it says at the end. Wisdom is not something you're born with. It's not something you achieve overnight. It's something you develop over time, and you develop it by listening, by learning, by being open to correction, by accepting instruction. Every piece of advice you listen to, every correction you accept, every bit of instruction you apply, it's making you wiser. And at the end, when your life is evaluated, when your character is assessed, when your decisions are examined, you will be counted among the wise. But you have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to be taught. You have to have a posture of humility and openness. So when someone offers you advice, don't immediately dismiss it. Don't get defensive. Don't assume they don't understand or that they're wrong. Consider it. Weigh it. Ask yourself if there's truth in it. Even if the advice isn't perfect, even if you don't end up following it completely, there's probably something to learn from it. When someone corrects you, don't get offended. Don't make excuses. Don't blame others. Thank them for caring enough to point it out. Reflect on whether their correction is valid. If it is, make the change. If it's not, let it go without resentment. But either way, be grateful that you have people in your life who care enough to help you grow. When someone offers instruction, don't tune them out. Don't assume you already know. Listen, learn, be curious, ask questions, seek to understand. Even if you're more experienced, even if you think you're more knowledgeable, there's always something to learn. There's always another perspective to consider. There's always room to grow. The people who become truly wise are the people who never stop learning. They're lifelong students. They're constantly seeking to grow, to improve, to become better. They don't think they've arrived. They don't think they know it all. They listen to advice. They accept instruction. They welcome correction. They're teachable at every age, in every season, in every stage of life. So examine yourself. Are you teachable? Are you open to feedback? Are you willing to be corrected? Or do you shut down? Do you get defensive? Do you resist? Because if you want to be counted among the wise at the end, you have to be willing to listen to advice and accept instruction along the way. Listen to advice and accept discipline, and at the end, you will be counted among the wise. Lesson 19. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. Proverbs chapter 18 verse 10 says, "The name of the Lord is a fortified tower. The righteous run to it and are safe." When everything falls apart, where do you run? When life gets overwhelming, where do you turn? When you're afraid, when you're uncertain, when you're hurting, when you don't know what to do, where do you find refuge? Proverbs is telling us, run to the name of the Lord. His name is a fortified tower. It's a place of safety. It's a place of protection. It's a place of strength. In ancient times, a fortified tower was the place people ran to when they were under attack. It was the strongest structure in the city, the most secure location, the place where you could be safe from enemies. And Proverbs is using that imagery to describe the name of the Lord. God himself is your fortified tower. He is your refuge. He is your safety. He is your protection. The righteous run to it. Notice the action word. Run, not walk, not stroll, not meander. Run. When danger comes, when trouble hits, when life gets overwhelming, the righteous don't try to handle it on their own. They don't rely on their own strength. They don't trust in their own resources. They run to God. They flee to Him. They take refuge in Him. And when they do, they are safe. Now, what does it mean to run to the name of the Lord? The name of the Lord represents who He is, His character, His nature, His attributes, His power. To run to the name of the Lord means to run to Him, to seek Him, to call on Him, to take refuge in who He is. When you're afraid, you run to the Lord who is your peace. When you're weak, you run to the Lord who is your strength. When you're uncertain, you run to the Lord who is your wisdom. When you're hurting, you run to the Lord who is your comfort. And when you run to Him, you are safe. Not safe in the sense that nothing bad will ever happen to you. Not safe in the sense that you won't experience pain or difficulty or hardship. But safe in the sense that you're held by the one who is sovereign, who is good, who is faithful, who is in control. Safe in the sense that nothing can separate you from His love. Safe in the sense that He will never leave you or forsake you. Safe in the sense that He is working all things together for your good. Safe in the sense that your eternal destiny is secure. Think about the storms of life. Maybe you're in one right now. Maybe your finances have fallen apart. Maybe your health has failed. Maybe your relationship has crumbled. Maybe your dream has died. Maybe your world has been turned upside down. Where do you run? Some people run to the bottle. Some people run to relationships. Some people run to work. Some people run to entertainment. Some people run to escape mechanisms, to distractions, to anything that will numb the pain or take their mind off their troubles. But all of those are false towers. They might provide temporary relief, but they don't provide safety. They don't provide real protection. They don't provide lasting security. Only the Lord is a fortified tower. Only in Him are you truly safe. So when life gets hard, when the storms come, when you don't know what to do, run to Him. Cry out to Him. Seek Him. Call on His name. Take refuge in who He is. Trust in His character. Rest in His sovereignty. Lean into His love. The name of the Lord is a fortified tower. The righteous run to it and are safe. That's a promise you can count on. That's security you can trust. That's refuge that will never fail you. So run to Him. He is your strong tower. Lesson 20. Better to live on a corner of the roof. Proverbs chapter 21 verse 9 says, "Better to live on a corner of the roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife." And before you think this is just about marriage, before you dismiss this as only applicable to men with difficult wives, the principle here applies to any relationship. The same proverb is repeated with slight variations elsewhere in Proverbs, and the principle is clear and universal. Peace is valuable. Harmony is valuable. And sometimes it's better to be alone than to be in a toxic, contentious, perpetually conflicted relationship. Think about what this proverb is saying. Living on a corner of the roof. In ancient Middle Eastern homes, that would mean living outside, exposed to the elements, cramped, uncomfortable, inconvenient. That's not an ideal living situation. But Proverbs is saying that's better, preferable, than living in a nice, comfortable house with someone who is constantly quarrelsome, constantly contentious, constantly stirring up conflict. Now, this doesn't mean you bail at the first sign of disagreement. Every relationship has conflict. Every marriage has disagreements. Every friendship has tensions. That's normal. That's part of human relationships. Conflict itself isn't the problem. But there's a difference between healthy conflict and constant quarreling. There's a difference between working through issues and living in perpetual tension. There's a difference between occasional disagreements and a relationship that's characterized by strife. A quarrelsome person is someone who is always fighting, always contentious, always stirring up conflict, always finding something to argue about. You can't have a conversation without it turning into an argument. You can't make a decision without it becoming a battle. You can't disagree without it becoming World War III. There's no peace. There's no harmony. There's no rest. It's constant conflict, constant tension, constant strife. And Proverbs is saying, don't tolerate that. Better to be alone than to be in constant conflict. Better to have peace by yourself than to have constant strife with someone else, because constant conflict wears you down. It drains you. It steals your joy. It robs you of peace. It damages your soul. It's toxic. Now, if you're married, this doesn't mean you get a free pass to leave at the first sign of difficulty. Marriage is a covenant. It requires commitment. It requires working through hard things. It requires both people being willing to grow, to change, to address their issues, to seek help when needed. If you're in a marriage characterized by constant conflict, the first step isn't to leave. It's to address it. Get counseling. Seek help. Do the hard work of figuring out why there's so much conflict and what needs to change. Both of you need to be willing to look at yourselves, to take responsibility for your part, to make changes. But, and this is important, there are relationships that are toxic, that are abusive, that are causing real harm. And in those cases, sometimes the healthiest, wisest thing to do is to create distance, to set boundaries, to remove yourself from the constant conflict. This is especially true in dating relationships or friendships. If you're dating someone who is constantly quarrelsome, constantly contentious, constantly causing conflict, don't marry them. Don't think it will get better. Don't think you can change them. Better to be alone than to commit yourself to a lifetime of strife. The broader principle is this: peace matters. Harmony matters. Seek relationships that are characterized by peace. Value people who are peacemakers rather than people who are constant sources of conflict. And if you find yourself in a relationship that's characterized by constant strife, address it. Don't just tolerate it. Don't just accept it as normal. Seek peace. Work toward harmony. And if the other person isn't willing to work toward peace, if they're committed to being quarrelsome, it's better to be alone. Better to live on a corner of the roof than share a house with a quarrelsome person. Peace is that valuable. Don't settle for less. Lesson 21. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Proverbs chapter 19 verse 21 says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." This is both humbling and comforting. It's humbling because it reminds us that we're not in control. We don't have the final say. We can't force our way into our preferred future. You can plan all you want. You can strategize and organize and map out every detail of your life. You can make your lists and set your goals and chart your course. And that's good. You should plan. You should be intentional. You should think about the future. But at the end of the day, it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. Your plans might work out exactly as you envisioned, or they might not. Doors you thought would open might stay closed. Paths you thought you'd take might be blocked. Outcomes you expected might not materialize. Timelines you set might not be met because you're not ultimately in control. God is, and it's His purpose that prevails. That's humbling. It puts us in our proper place. It reminds us that we're creatures, not the Creator. We're servants, not the Master. We're followers, not the leader. We need to hold our plans loosely, recognizing that God's plans might be different. We need to submit our ways to Him, acknowledging that His purpose is what ultimately matters. But it's also comforting, because even when our plans fall apart, even when things don't go the way we expected, even when we don't understand what's happening, God's purpose is still unfolding. Even when our plans fail, God's plans don't. Even when we're confused and frustrated and disappointed, God is still at work. Even when it seems like everything is falling apart, God's purpose is still being accomplished, and His purpose is always good. God's purpose will prevail. That means you can rest, you can trust, you can let go of your need to control everything. You can stop striving and forcing and trying to make things happen in your own strength. You can submit your plans to God and trust that His purpose, which is better than your plans, will prevail. Think about Joseph. He had dreams. He had plans, in a sense, but then his brothers sold him into slavery. His plans fell apart. He ended up in Egypt, far from home, a slave in Potiphar's house. Was that in Joseph's plans? No, but it was in God's purpose. Then he was falsely accused and thrown in prison. Was that in Joseph's plans? No, but it was in God's purpose. Years passed. His situation seemed hopeless. His plans seemed completely destroyed, but God's purpose prevailed. And eventually, Joseph was elevated to second in command in Egypt. And in that position, he was able to save his family and the entire region from famine. God's purpose prevailed, and it was better than anything Joseph could have planned. Think about the disciples. They had plans. They thought Jesus was going to establish an earthly kingdom, overthrow Rome, reign as king. But then Jesus was arrested. He was crucified. He died. Their plans fell apart. Everything they'd hoped for seemed to be destroyed. But God's purpose prevailed. The crucifixion wasn't the end. It was the plan all along. And the resurrection changed everything. God's purpose prevailed, and it was infinitely better than their plans. You might be in a season right now where your plans have fallen apart. Maybe you plan to be married by now, but you're still single. Maybe you plan to have children, but you haven't been able to. Maybe you plan to be in a certain career, but doors have closed. Maybe you plan to be healthy, but illness has struck. Maybe you plan to be financially secure, but circumstances have changed, and you're frustrated, you're disappointed, you're confused. You're wondering why things haven't worked out the way you planned. But remember this: many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Your plans might have fallen apart, but God's purpose is still unfolding, and His purpose is good. His purpose is better than your plans. His purpose will lead to blessing, even if you can't see it yet. So trust Him, submit your plans to Him, hold them loosely, and believe that His purpose, which is always good, always wise, always loving, will prevail. So yes, make plans. Be intentional, set goals, work hard, But hold those plans loosely. Submit them to God. Trust that His purpose is better than your plans, and rest in the knowledge that no matter what happens, God's purpose will prevail, and His purpose is always good. These 21 lessons from Proverbs are more than just nice ideas or inspirational quotes. They're truths that have been shaping lives for thousands of years. They're principles that work. They're wisdom that endures. And the question now is, will you apply them? Will you let them change the way you live? Because wisdom doesn't do you any good if it stays theoretical. It has to be lived. It has to be practiced. It has to be applied to your everyday life, to your relationships, your decisions, your priorities, your character. So as you go from here, I want to challenge you. Don't just let these lessons pass through your mind and then forget about them. Pick one. Pick just one of these 21 lessons and commit to living it out this week. Maybe it's guarding your heart. Maybe it's speaking kind words. Maybe it's seeking counsel before making a big decision. Maybe it's committing your work to the Lord. Maybe it's exercising self-control. Maybe it's listening to advice. Maybe it's running to God when you're overwhelmed. Whatever it is, choose one. Write it down. Put it somewhere you'll see it. And intentionally apply it to your life this week. And then watch what happens. Watch what God does when you apply His wisdom to your life. Because here's what I know. When you live according to God's wisdom, everything changes. Your relationships change because you're speaking life, showing grace, pursuing peace. Your decisions change because you're seeking counsel, trusting God, holding your plans loosely. Your priorities change because you're guarding your heart, caring about justice, refreshing others. Your character changes because you're exercising self-control, accepting instruction, walking with the wise. Your entire life changes because you're living according to the wisdom of God rather than the foolishness of the world. That's the power of Proverbs. That's the power of wisdom, and it's available to you right now. So don't just hear these lessons, live them, apply them, let them transform the way you live. Before we close, I want to invite you to take one more step with me. If you found value in this video, if these lessons resonated with you, if they challenged you or encouraged you or helped you in any way, I would be so grateful if you would subscribe to this channel. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. We have so much more wisdom from Scripture to explore together, and I don't want you to miss a single one. There's so much more to learn, so much more to discover, so much more that God wants to teach us through His Word. And if you enjoyed this content, if you found it valuable, if it helped you, hit the like button. It seems like such a small thing, but it actually makes a big difference. It helps more people discover these videos. It helps the algorithm know that this content is valuable and should be shared with more people. So if you appreciated this video, show it by hitting that like button. Also, consider sharing this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe it's a friend who's struggling and could use some wisdom. Maybe it's a family member who's making difficult decisions. Maybe it's someone in your church community who could benefit from these truths. Maybe it's someone on social media who's searching for answers. Share it, send them the link, post it on your page. Let's get this wisdom into as many hands as possible. The world desperately needs the timeless truth of God's Word, and you can be part of spreading that. You can be part of helping others discover the wisdom that will change their lives. And as we close, I want to leave you with a blessing. May the Lord give you wisdom as you seek Him. May He guide your steps and make your paths straight. May He fill your heart with His peace and protect you from the snares of foolishness. May you walk in the fear of the Lord all the days of your life, and may His wisdom transform everything you do. May you be someone who guards your heart, who speaks life, who walks with the wise, who cares about justice, who refreshes others, who exercises self-control, who listens to advice, who runs to God in times of trouble, who pursues peace, and who trusts that God's purpose will prevail. May these lessons from Proverbs not just inform your mind, but transform your life. May you become someone who is counted among the wise. Go in peace, knowing that the God who created you loves you, guides you, and has a purpose for your life that is better than anything you could ever plan for yourself. He is your strong tower. He is your source of wisdom. He is your hope. Trust him, follow him, live according to his wisdom, and watch how he transforms your life. I'll see you in the next video. God bless you.